Ma'am, I don't care what you think you booked. You need to step aside right now and stop holding up my line. The gate agent pressed a button under her desk, and within seconds, two security officers appeared at the counter. Dr. Patricia Monroe stood perfectly still, her cane gripped in one hand, her jaw tight but her voice calm as she said, "I'd like to speak to a supervisor, please." The gate agent, a white woman in her 50s named Diane, smiled at the waiting passengers behind Patricia and said loudly, "I'm sorry for the delay, folks. Some people just don't understand how airports work." What Diane didn't know was that Patricia Monroe wasn't just a passenger. She was the woman who'd written the Americans with Disabilities Act compliance manual that every U.S. airline was legally required to follow. A black woman was banned from boarding, accused of being aggressive and uncooperative, after she asked for the wheelchair assistance she'd requested 3 weeks earlier. Patricia Monroe, 58, had spent the last 32 years of her life fighting for disability rights. She held a Ph.D. in public policy from Georgetown, had served as senior accessibility advisor to 2 presidential administrations, and for the past decade, she'd been the director of the National Airline Accessibility Compliance Board. That meant she wrote the rules. She set the standards. She evaluated every major airline's compliance with federal disability law. And she had the authority to levy fines, mandate retraining, and even suspend airline certifications. But today, she was just trying to get home. She'd flown from Washington, D.C. to Dallas for a 3-day conference on transportation accessibility. She'd given the keynote speech to over 2,000 attendees. Now she was at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, trying to board her American Airlines flight back to D.C. She walked with a cane due to a degenerative hip condition. Some days were better than others. Today was not a good day. When she'd booked her flight 3 weeks earlier, she'd requested wheelchair assistance from the ticket counter to the gate. It was a standard request, one the airline was required by law to accommodate. But when she'd arrived at the gate, there was no wheelchair. No attendant. No assistance. She'd asked the gate agent, Diane Foster, where the wheelchair was. Diane had barely looked up from her computer. "We don't have any available right now. You'll have to wait." "I requested one when I booked my ticket," Patricia said calmly. "It should be in my reservation." "Well, it's not showing up in my system." "Can you check again, please?" Diane sighed dramatically and clicked her mouse a few times. "No, nothing here. Like I said, you'll have to wait." "How long?" "I don't know, we're short-staffed." Patricia took a slow breath. "I have a boarding time in 15 minutes. I need assistance to get down the jet bridge." "Then you should have gotten here earlier," Diane said. Patricia blinked. "I'm here an hour before my flight." "Not my problem." The passengers standing behind Patricia in line began to shift impatiently. One man muttered, "Come on, lady." Patricia felt the familiar sting of humiliation, but kept her voice steady. "I'm not trying to cause a problem. I'm simply requesting the accommodation I'm legally entitled to." Diane's eyes narrowed. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm explaining my rights." "No, you're being difficult." Diane picked up the phone. "Security to gate C14, please." Patricia's stomach dropped. "That's not necessary." "I'll decide what's necessary." Within 90 seconds, 2 airport security officers, both men, one white, one Latino, arrived at the gate. The white officer, whose name tag read Miller, looked at Diane. "What's the issue?" "This passenger is being uncooperative and aggressive," Diane said. "She's holding up the boarding process and refusing to follow instructions." Patricia's hands tightened on her cane. "That's not true. I asked for wheelchair assistance that I requested weeks ago. She told me it wasn't available and that I should have arrived earlier, even though I'm here an hour early." Officer Miller looked between them. "Ma'am, do you have your boarding pass?" Patricia handed it over. He scanned it with a handheld device. "Your boarding group hasn't been called yet. You'll need to wait until—" "I understand that," Patricia said, "but I need wheelchair assistance to board, and I was told there isn't any available. I'm asking for a solution." Diane cut in. "I already told her we're short-staffed. She won't accept that answer." "Because it's not an acceptable answer," Patricia said, her voice still calm but firmer now. "The Air Carrier Access Act requires airlines to provide timely wheelchair assistance. It's not optional." Diane's face flushed. "Are you trying to lecture me on how to do my job?" "I'm trying to get the help I'm entitled to." "You know what?" Diane stood up, her voice rising. "I don't have to put up with this. You're being hostile and disruptive, and I'm denying you boarding." The gate area went silent. Patricia stared at her. "You're denying me boarding because I asked for wheelchair assistance." "I'm denying you boarding because of your attitude." Officer Miller shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, maybe if you just—" "I haven't raised my voice once," Patricia said, looking directly at him. "I haven't threatened anyone. I haven't been disruptive. I asked for an accommodation I'm legally entitled to, and I'm being punished for it." Diane crossed her arms. "I've made my decision. You're not getting on this flight. If you don't leave the gate area voluntarily, these officers will escort you out." Patricia felt the world tilting. She'd spent 3 decades fighting for moments like this, ensuring that people like her weren't discriminated against. And now it was happening to her, in front of 100 witnesses. She looked at Officer Miller. "I'd like to file a formal complaint." "You can do that at the customer service desk," he said quietly. "I'd like to do it now." Diane laughed, actually laughed. "Good luck with that. Now please leave before I have you arrested for trespassing." Patricia took one long breath, then nodded. She turned and walked away, each step sending pain shooting through her hip. But this was only the beginning. Patricia didn't go to customer service. She went to a quiet corner of the terminal, sat down, and pulled out her phone. She opened her contacts and scrolled to a name: Michael Tran, VP Regulatory Compliance, American Airlines. She'd worked with Michael for years. He was a good man, thorough, respectful. She pressed call. He picked up on the second ring. "Dr. Monroe, how are you?" "I've been better, Michael." His tone shifted immediately. "What happened?" Patricia told him everything, calmly, precisely, without exaggeration. When she finished, there was a long silence. Then Michael said, "Are you still at the airport?" "Yes." "What gate?" "C-14. But they've denied me boarding." "Stay right where you are," Michael said. "Do not leave. I'm calling the station manager right now." He hung up. Patricia sat in the hard plastic chair, her cane resting against her knee, her hands folded in her lap. Around her, travelers rushed past, oblivious. No one looked at her. No one asked if she was okay. She was invisible. 5 minutes later, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize, but the area code was local. She answered, "Hello. Dr. Monroe, this is Richard Copeland, station manager for American Airlines here at DFW. I just got off the phone with Michael Tran. I am so sorry for what happened. Can you tell me where you are right now?" "Gate C-14. I'm on my way, please don't move." Patricia hung up and waited. What she didn't know was who else had been watching. 10 minutes later, a man in a dark suit appeared, tall, white, early 50s, moving fast. "Dr. Monroe," he said, slightly out of breath. She looked up. "Mr. Copeland." "Yes, I am so sorry." He sat down next to her. "I've already spoken to the gate agent. Can you tell me exactly what happened?" Patricia repeated the story, her voice steady. Richard's face grew darker with every sentence. "This is unacceptable," he said. "Absolutely unacceptable. First, let me get you on the next flight, first class, no charge. Second, I'm personally going to escort you to the gate and make sure you have wheelchair assistance. And third, I'm launching an immediate investigation into Diane Foster's conduct." "I don't want special treatment," Patricia said. "I just want what I requested." "You'll get both," Richard said. He stood and offered his hand. "Come with me." Patricia took his hand and stood, wincing slightly. Richard noticed, "Are you in pain?" "I'm fine." "Let me get you a wheelchair." "I'd appreciate that." Within 3 minutes, an attendant arrived with a wheelchair. Patricia sat down, relief flooding through her. Richard walked beside her as the attendant pushed her toward the gate. When they arrived at C-14, Diane looked up and her face went white. Richard walked straight to the counter. "Diane, I need to speak with you, now." Diane stood, her hands shaking. "Mr. Copeland, Not here, in the back office." Richard turned to the other gate agent, a younger woman named Jessica. "Jessica, please make sure Dr. Monroe boards first and has everything she needs." Jessica nodded quickly. "Of course." Richard and Diane disappeared into the back office. Patricia sat in the wheelchair, her heart pounding. Jessica approached nervously. "Dr. Monroe, I'm so sorry for what happened. Is there anything I can get for you? Water, coffee?" "I'm fine, thank you." Jessica hesitated. "For what it's worth, I heard the whole thing. You weren't rude at all. Diane was completely out of line." Patricia gave her a small smile. "Thank you for saying that." Jessica nodded and returned to the desk. Patricia sat quietly, watching passengers board. A few glanced at her curiously, but no one said anything. 10 minutes later, Richard emerged from the office. Diane followed, her face red and blotchy. She didn't look at Patricia. Richard approached. "Dr. Monroe, Diane would like to say something to you." Diane stepped forward stiffly. "I apologize for the misunderstanding." Patricia looked at her. "Misunderstanding?" Diane's jaw tightened. "Yes." "There was no misunderstanding," Patricia said quietly. "You denied me an accommodation I'm legally entitled to, accused me of being aggressive, and had security called on me. That's not a misunderstanding. That's discrimination." Diane's face went even redder, but she didn't respond. Richard cleared his throat. "Diane has been placed on immediate administrative leave pending a full investigation. You won't be seeing her again today." Diane turned and walked away without another word. Richard knelt down beside Patricia's wheelchair. "Dr. Monroe, I want you to know this will be taken seriously. We'll be reviewing the gate camera footage, interviewing witnesses, and filing a full report. And if you choose to file a formal complaint with the DOT, we'll cooperate fully." Patricia nodded. "I'll be filing a complaint, but not with the DOT." Richard frowned. "I'm sorry." Patricia reached into her bag and pulled out her business card. She handed it to him. He read it, and his face went slack. "Dr. Patricia Monroe, Director, National Airline Accessibility Compliance Board, U.S. Department of Transportation." Richard's mouth opened and closed. "I don't file complaints with the DOT," Patricia said calmly. "I am the DOT." If only Diane knew who she just banned from boarding. Richard stared at the business card like it might explode. You're the director of the NAACB." "I am." "The agency that oversees airline disability compliance." "Correct." Richard sat down heavily in the nearest chair. "Oh my God." Patricia almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "Mr. Copeland, I want to be clear. I wasn't here in an official capacity. I was traveling as a private citizen. But what happened to me happens to disabled passengers every single day, and most of them don't have the resources or the knowledge to fight back." Richard nodded, his face pale. "I understand." "Do you?" Patricia's voice was still calm, but there was steel underneath. "Because your gate agent didn't just inconvenience me. She violated federal law. She discriminated against me based on my disability. And she did it confidently, which tells me she's done it before." "I'll find out," Richard said. "I promise." "You do that." Patricia gestured toward the jet bridge. "Now, can I please board my flight?" "Of course, absolutely." Richard stood and motioned to the attendant. "Please escort Dr. Monroe onto the aircraft. First class, seat 2A." The attendant nodded and began pushing Patricia toward the gate. As they passed the desk, Jessica caught Patricia's eye and mouthed, "I'm sorry." Patricia nodded. She boarded the plane, and the flight crew, who'd clearly been briefed, greeted her with nervous smiles and excessive politeness. "Dr. Monroe, welcome aboard. Can I get you anything? Champagne, water, a pillow?" "Water is fine, thank you." Patricia settled into her seat, exhausted. The plane filled quickly. Passengers stowed bags, argued over armrests, scrolled on their phones. No one knew what had just happened. No one knew who she was. And that was exactly the problem. But here's the part that changed everything. The flight took off smoothly. Once they reached cruising altitude, Patricia pulled out her laptop and opened a document titled AAL Compliance Review, Q3 2024. It was a 47-page report evaluating American Airlines compliance with disability accommodation requirements. She'd been working on it for 3 months. It was due to the dot in 2 weeks. And based on what had just happened, she was going to have to revise her findings. She scrolled to the section on wheelchair assistance services and began typing. Incident Report, Personal Experience, DFW Airport, Gate C14, November 14, 2024. Despite advance request made at time of booking, 21 days prior, wheelchair assistance was not available upon arrival at gate. Gate agent Diane Foster dismissed request, blamed staffing shortages, and instructed passenger to arrive earlier despite passenger arriving 60 minutes before departure. When passenger referenced legal requirements under ACAA, gate agent became hostile, called security, and denied boarding based on alleged aggressive behavior. Surveillance footage will show no such behavior occurred. Passenger was ultimately provided assistance only after intervention by station manager, who was contacted by VP of Regulatory Compliance after passenger personally called corporate office. Conclusion: systemic failure at multiple levels. Lack of training, lack of oversight, lack of accountability. Patricia saved the document. Then she opened a new email and addressed it to Michael Tran, Richard Copeland, and the CEO of American Airlines, Daniel Murray. She typed, "Gentlemen, I am writing to formally document a serious ACAA violation that occurred today at DFW Airport involving myself as the affected passenger. I will be submitting a full incident report to the DOT within 48 hours. I will also be recommending an expedited compliance audit of American Airlines wheelchair assistance protocols at all major hubs. Additionally, I am placing American Airlines on provisional compliance status pending resolution of this matter. This means all pending certifications and route approvals will be frozen until corrective action is demonstrated. I have attached preliminary documentation and will provide surveillance footage once obtained through official channels. This is not personal, this is procedural. Respectfully, Dr. Patricia Monroe." She hit send. Then she closed her laptop, leaned back and closed her eyes. What she didn't know was that her email was about to detonate like a bomb. Within 20 minutes, her phone started buzzing. She ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Finally, she looked. 12 missed calls, 9 voicemails, 14 emails. All from American Airlines executives. She opened the most recent email from Daniel Murray himself. Dr. Monroe, I just read your email. I am horrified. I am calling an emergency meeting of our executive leadership team tonight. I would like to personally apologize and discuss how we can make this right. Please call me at your earliest convenience. Daniel. Patricia set the phone down. She'd been in this business long enough to know what "make this right" meant. They'd offer her money, apologies, free flights for life. They'd try to make her go away quietly. But she wasn't going away. Because this wasn't about her. And just when things seemed to be settling, the second earthquake hit. When the plane landed in D.C., Patricia deplaned using the wheelchair assistance that, miraculously, was waiting for her at the gate. She made her way through the terminal and headed for baggage claim. Her phone rang. It was a number she recognized. Senator Rebecca Hall, Chair, Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. Patricia answered, Senator Hall. Patricia, I just heard what happened. Are you all right? I'm fine, Rebecca. How did you hear? Daniel Murray called me personally. He's panicking. He said you're freezing their certifications. I am. There was a pause. Good. Patricia smiled. I thought you'd tell me to go easy on them. Are you kidding? I've been trying to get airlines to take disability compliance seriously for years. If this is what it takes, so be it. I'm not doing this for revenge. I know you're not. You're doing it because it's right. And for what it's worth, you have my full support. If you need congressional backing, you've got it. Thank you, Rebecca. One more thing, the senator said. I'm holding a hearing next month on airline accessibility. I want you to testify, and I want you to tell your story. Patricia hesitated. I don't want this to be about me. It's not. It's about the thousands of disabled passengers who have been treated exactly like you were, but they don't have your platform. You do. Use it. Patricia closed her eyes. I'll think about it. That's all I ask. They hung up. Patricia stood in the middle of the terminal, travelers rushing past her, and felt the weight of what was coming. This wasn't just a complaint. This was going to be a reckoning. But what Patricia didn't know was that someone else had recorded the entire incident at the gate. 2 days later, Patricia was in her office in Washington when her assistant, Marcus, knocked on her door. Dr. Monroe, you need to see this. He handed her his phone. On the screen was a Twitter video with over 2 million views. The caption read, Airline gate agent calls security on disabled black woman for asking for wheelchair assistance. This is discrimination, plain and simple. Disability rights AAL. Patricia's stomach dropped. She pressed play. The video showed everything. Her standing at the counter, calm and composed. Diane dismissing her. The security officers arriving. Diane saying, she's being hostile and disruptive. Patricia's quiet response, I haven't raised my voice once. And then Diane's final words, you're not getting on this flight. The comments below were brutal. This is disgusting. She was so polite, and they treated her like a criminal. I'm never flying American again. Someone find out who this woman is. She deserves justice. Patricia handed the phone back. Who posted this? Unknown. The account is anonymous, but it's going viral. News outlets are picking it up. American stock dropped 2% this morning. Patricia sat down heavily. There's more, Marcus said. Someone in the comments identified you. Patricia's head snapped up. What? Marcus scrolled and showed her. A comment from a verified account, someone who'd attended her keynote speech in Dallas. That's Dr. Patricia Monroe. She's the director of the National Airline Accessibility Compliance Board. She literally writes the rules airlines have to follow. They just discriminated against the one person who has the power to shut them down. The replies were in the thousands. Oh my God. They have no idea what they just did. This is about to get so much worse for American Airlines. Patricia put her head in her hands. Dr. Monroe, Marcus said quietly, what do you want to do? She looked up. Get me Senator Hall's office, and get me the DOTS press liaison. If this is going public, we're going to do it on our terms. If only American Airlines knew what was about to happen next. 3 days later, Patricia sat in a conference room at the Department of Transportation headquarters. Across from her were 5 American Airlines executives, including CEO Daniel Murray. Also present, 2 DOT attorneys, a representative from the Federal Aviation Administration, and a court stenographer. This was a formal compliance hearing. Daniel Murray spoke first. Dr. Monroe, on behalf of American Airlines, I want to offer you our sincerest apologies. What happened to you was unacceptable, and we take full responsibility. Patricia said nothing. Daniel continued. We've taken immediate action. Diane Foster has been terminated. We've launched a comprehensive review of our disability services across all hubs, and we're implementing mandatory retraining for all gate agents and customer service staff. He slid a folder across the table. We'd also like to offer you a settlement, $250,000 plus lifetime platinum status plus a formal public apology. Patricia opened the folder, glanced at the check, and closed it. No, she said. Daniel blinked. I'm sorry. I don't want your money, and I don't want platinum status. I want systemic change. One of the other executives, a woman named Laura, leaned forward. Dr. Monroe, we're offering you $250,000. I don't care. Patricia's voice was calm but firm. Do you know how many disabled passengers are discriminated against every single day? Thousands. And most of them don't have the resources to fight back. Most of them just accept it and move on. She looked at Daniel. I'm not most people. I have a platform, I have authority, and I'm going to use it. Daniel's face tightened. What do you want? Patricia pulled out a document and slid it across the table. I want a consent decree, signed by you, filed with the DOT, legally binding. Daniel picked it up and read. His face went pale. You want us to hire an independent compliance monitor for 3 years, he said. Yes. You want us to install real-time wheelchair tracking systems at every airport. Yes. You want us to pay a $5 million fine to the National Disability Rights Fund. Yes. This is extreme. Patricia leaned forward. Mr. Murray, your company violated federal law. You discriminated against a disabled passenger who happened to be the person responsible for enforcing that law. You're lucky I'm not recommending criminal charges. One of the DOT attorneys spoke up. Dr. Monroe is within her authority to request these terms. The question is whether you'll agree voluntarily or whether we'll pursue formal enforcement action. Daniel looked at his legal team. They whispered urgently. Finally, he looked back at Patricia. We'll agree to the consent decree. Patricia nodded. Good, you have 48 hours to sign and file it. She stood. This meeting is over. But what happened next would change everything, not just for American Airlines, but for the entire industry. 2 weeks later, Patricia stood in front of the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. The room was packed. Senators, journalists, disability advocates, airline executives. Senator Rebecca Hall gavelled the hearing to order. Dr. Monroe, thank you for being here today. Please proceed with your testimony. Patricia adjusted the microphone. Thank you, Senator. My name is Dr. Patricia Monroe, and I am the director of the National Airline Accessibility Compliance Board. I'm here today to talk about what happened to me and what happens to thousands of disabled passengers every year. She told her story, calmly, clearly, without emotion. When she finished, the room was silent. Then Senator Hall said, "Dr. Monroe, in your professional opinion, is what happened to you an isolated incident?" "No, Senator, it's systemic." "Can you elaborate?" "Airlines are required by law to provide wheelchair assistance, priority boarding, and other accommodations. But enforcement is weak, penalties are minimal, and most passengers don't know their rights or don't have the resources to fight back. What do you recommend?" Patricia took a breath. "I recommend we triple the fines for ACAA violations. I recommend mandatory third-party compliance audits for all major carriers. And I recommend we create a federal disability rights ombudsman with enforcement authority." Senator Hall smiled. "I think that's an excellent idea. In fact, I'm introducing a bill next week to do exactly that." Applause filled the room. But Patricia wasn't done. "There's one more thing, Senator." "Yes." "I'm recommending that the DOT launch a nationwide investigation into disability discrimination in air travel. Every major airline, every hub, full transparency." The airline executives in the room shifted uncomfortably. Senator Hall nodded. "I'll support that recommendation fully." More applause. When the hearing ended, journalists swarmed Patricia. "Dr. Monroe, do you have any comment on American Airlines' consent decree? It's a good first step, but it's just the beginning. Do you think other airlines will follow suit? They won't have a choice. What do you say to people who think you're being too harsh?" Patricia looked directly into the camera. "I say this, disabled people are not asking for special treatment. We're asking for basic dignity. And if airlines can't provide that, they shouldn't be in business." The clip went viral within hours. Patricia sat in her office, reviewing the latest compliance reports. American Airlines had fully implemented every term of the consent decree. Delta, United, Southwest, and JetBlue had all voluntarily adopted similar measures. Wheelchair assistance complaints had dropped by 64% nationwide. And Congress had passed the Air Travel Accessibility Enforcement Act, which tripled penalties for ACAA violations and created the new ombudsman position. The president had asked Patricia to serve in that role. She'd accepted. There was a knock on her door. Marcus entered. "Dr. Monroe, there's someone here to see you." "Who?" "Jessica Ramirez. She's a gate agent from American Airlines." Patricia frowned. "Send her in." A young woman entered, mid-20s, Latina, nervous. "Dr. Monroe, I'm sorry to just show up. I was the other gate agent, the one at the desk when it happened." Patricia gestured to a chair. "I remember, sit down." Jessica sat. "I just wanted to say thank you." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For what you did. After you filed your report, American launched a huge internal review. They found out Diane had been doing this for years, denying accommodations, being rude to disabled passengers, cutting corners. I suspected as much. But no one ever reported her, or if they did, nothing happened until you." Jessica's eyes filled with tears. "I watched her treat you like that and I didn't say anything. I was scared of losing my job, but you weren't scared. You stood up. And because of you, things are changing." Patricia's expression softened. "You testified, didn't you, during the internal review?" Jessica nodded. "I told them everything I saw. I couldn't stay quiet anymore." "That took courage." "Not as much as what you did." Patricia smiled. "We all do what we can." Jessica stood. "Anyway, I just wanted to thank you. You changed my life. And you changed a lot of other lives, too." After she left, Patricia sat quietly for a long moment. Then she opened her laptop and began drafting her first report as the new federal disability rights ombudsman. There was still work to do. There always would be. but for the first time in a long time, she felt hope. Diane Foster never worked in the airline industry again. The video of the incident has been viewed over 15 million times and is now used in corporate training programs on disability discrimination. American Airlines became the industry leader in accessibility services and won multiple awards for their compliance program. And Patricia Monroe, she continued to fight not just for herself, but for every person who'd ever been told they didn't belong. Because she knew the truth. Dignity isn't given. It's claimed. And sometimes the person they dismiss as difficult is the one who changes the entire system. Patricia's victory wasn't just personal. It reminded every disabled person, every Black woman, every marginalized traveler that your voice matters, your rights are real, and the people who underestimate you often have no idea who they're dealing with. When they call you difficult, stay firm. When they dismiss your rights, know the law. And when they think you're powerless, let your credentials and your courage do the talking. Because sometimes, the person they're trying to silence is the one who wrote the rules. Be honest, would you have stayed as composed as Dr. Monroe? Or would you have lost it the moment security was called? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you believe that dignity and accessibility are rights, not privileges, hit that like button and share this story. Because every time we speak up, we make it easier for the next person to do the same. I'm Civilized, and I'll see you in the next one.